It's time to head to the north of the USA for round number 5 of the World GT Championship here on RaceSpotTV, and what a season it has been so far. Delighted to have you all along here, joining us here today. It is the World GT Championship with myself, Paul Smith, on commentary, and my guest co-commentary today is Lorenzo Bonda. Lorenzo, welcome along to the series, and you picked a good one because we've got two 40-minute feature races here today.
Oh yeah, Paul, thank you so much. It's been a long time coming. I've been wanting to commentate this series for quite a while, you know. It's providing such good on-track action, and we picked Road America. I think a track that has no favorites. Draft is strong, and context and some argy-bargies will happen because it is the nature of the track. I like it.
Well, it certainly is a challenging track for the drivers out there. 4 miles in length is this track, and it really does stand out as the North America, the United States patch of this season, because we started off in Europe in Barcelona before we headed over to Italy for the rounds at Imola and Monza. We had a week off, then last week at Road Atlanta with that fantastic endurance race. That was simply a great race to watch. Road America here today with our feature round before we head on over to Daytona in Florida for our sprint round next week. We get a week off, and then we head across the Pacific to Fuji Speedway, then head back across to Long Beach before heading down under for Phillip Island. And then we finish off the championship back in Europe. We've got Spa-Francorchamps, we've got Silverstone, and then we've got the Nürburgring to finish us off in the championship. And speaking of the championship, it has been an absolute thrill ride this season, but Ross McFarlane currently has the lead of this championship by 51 points over his teammate Alex Davidson. Alex Gall has done a good job for the Maradna Satellite E-Stars team in 3rd place, but he's 168 points off of the championship leader. Jacob Machursky is there in 4th place, ahead of Michael Avdoka, Jared Caroni, Matt Fletcher, Josh Thompson, Tom Dadswell and Adam Watson round out the top 10 of your pro standings. In your Pro-Am standings, it's a close one, is this one, between Chris van der Ness and Mark Hutchinson. Just 5 points separate the two of them here. Ethan Critchley, he did so good in Am that he got promoted to Pro-Am for the rest of the season. So he's only 67 points off of the championship lead. So that's quite close between them. Then there's Simner, Adriansons, Barnes, Archer, Webster, Samways and Gray to round out the top 10 in Pro-Am. In your Am standings, this is another close championship. Just 16 points between Faulkner and De Jong at the top of the standings. Jessica Wilkins, the Parabellum Racing Simability driver, is there in 3rd place, along with Adam Coles in 4th place. 5th for Adam Hedgecock with Sarah Raab after a good round last time out. In 6th place, ahead of Lars Van Rijn, James Whitehouse, Brian Sohn and Michael Blake to round out the top 10. Then we're on to the Endurance Championship standings, because we've had 2 rounds of that now out of the 4 endurance races, and it is Ross McFarlane, the king of the endurance rounds here in this World GT Championship. He has got a healthy 14-point lead over Mark Hutchinson, with Paddy Faulkner in 3rd place. Alex Gall, Chris van der Ness, Martin de Jong, Ethan Critchley, Michael Avdoka, Jessica Wilkins and Alex Davidson round out your top 10. Then team standings, we can't forget about these, because currently Pure Sims Esports have a 216 point lead over Maradna Satellite E-Stars. Evo SR for Pro-Am, they're the leaders in Pro-Am, and they're got a healthy lead there in 3rd place overall, 1st in Pro-Am, with Altitude Esports and Full Tilt V Motorsport 4th and 5th place overall, with Century Sim Esports, DCW Racing, Parabellum Racing Simability, Brabham Esports and Altitude Esports Blue to round out the top 10 of your teams. And so, but plenty of close championships for these drivers to fight over.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think the battle between Ross McFarlane and Davidson and everybody else has been very interesting to brew on, and the boys from the Moradness E-Stars trying to fight up in the first few rounds just couldn't get the results up in the top of the Moradness of the Pure Sims guys. But this I think is a round that I don't think there's a, again, early favorite, because there is no good performance in the card. They've been balanced out, and I think given the fact that Road America, you're so close to one another, and once you break out of the toe, it's so hard for you to make it back unless the driver in front of you makes a mistake. It makes this round more compelling than anything.
We are finishing off qualifying. The drivers coming across the line to finish their final hot laps in your pro class. For those of you who don't know how qualifying runs here, it starts off with the AM drivers for 10 minutes. They finish their qualifying, then the Pro-Am drivers have 10 minutes on their own, and then the final 10 minutes is the Pro drivers for that. So that's how qualifying works here, and well, it certainly is quite close, and Alex Davidson provisionally on pole position. He has got himself a cracking lap time in to head him to the top of the standings. Now, Ross McFarlane, I don't actually see him here today, so he could be missing this round of the championship, which, when you think he's a championship contender, you do get 2 drop rounds, so it's not the end of the world. But here's the grid. We're going to have to fire through this one because it's Alex Davidson and James Armstrong. The Brabham Esports, first front row for them, just 7/100ths of a second off of Alex Davidson. Second row of the grid is Tom Dadswell with Mark Fletcher, making it an Altitude Esports. Second row, Alex Gall and Yanis Albert on the third row of the grid. Row number 4 is Jack Sedgwick with Jared Corone, with Andy Scheel and Mateusz Drozda in row number 5. Row 6 for Adam Watson and Mike Horder. Row 7 then for Andy Archer and Chris Van Der Ness, with Sarah Raab cracking qualifying for her, and Pete Harrod then. Ethan Critchley and Jack Osborne share the next row of the grid, with Paul Webster and Tom Brown rounding out the top 10 rows of the grid. Richard Simner and Phil Samways then row 11, with Paul Crawford and Tim Perry row number 12. Row 13 shared by Kevin Kittleman and Jack Belton, with Yenton Adriansons and Ed May sharing row number 14. Row 15, it is Patrick Faulkner and Alex Nella, who's had a disastrous qualifying, it must be said. Adam Hedgecock and Jim Whitehouse then on row number 16, with Matt Woodhouse and Ben Gregory in row 17. The 18th row of the grid is Lars Van Rijn and Andy Gilmore. Row 19 is Brian Sun with Michael Blake. Nick Salaputis towards the back on the 39th place, sharing that with Mark Hutchinson. Jeroen Kaiser, Martin de Jong, Adam Coles and Jesse Pay Wilkins all start from the final couple of rows of the grid, having had penalties. Lorenzo, as I said, 2 40-minute races here today. You've got a mandated pit stop as well, so you have to pit. Is this going to be about fuel? Is this all going to be about strategy, or is there going to be some racing to be had?
I think this is going to be about fuel if we're going to take the race length, of course. There will be a lot of clutching going to turn number 5 and then turn maybe at kind of the corner. Absolutely. Unless somebody wants to be a little bit funny and go slightly aggressive, which, hey, for us, we would like to see that. But obviously, this is going to be about fuel, and that overcut usually works quite well if you go for it, actually.
We are missing one driver from the grid, Nick Salaputis, as Alex Davidson holds the grid for a little while to let that pace car just pull away that little bit. Round the final corner, it's a very, very short pace lap here. Pace car pull off to the right, and now we're under the control of Alex Davidson from Pure Sims Esports. Front row shared with James Armstrong from Brabham Esports. He's going to get on the throttle now as they climb up the hill for the start of this race, and we are underway for 40 minutes here in the World GT Championship, heading towards turn number 1, and already Davidson making a runaway at the front. He has got quite the lead as we go through turn number 1 now. Will everyone make it through here? This is usually one pinch point that happens here. So far, so good for the drivers as they head into turn 3.
Oh,
Contact!
no.
Contact! I think that was Matt Fletcher the Altitude Esports car it is. He's out all the way out to the left-hand side of the track. He's trying to find some space to get himself back onto the track. But my goodness, already, Lorenzo, there's been some contact.
Yeah, there have been some contact, but looking at the angle that we saw at the camera right there, there would have been contact regardless. And now here comes turn number 5. Favorite point for overtaking for some of the drivers, and there's where we can also see contacts happening down the line, and then the Corvette bridge as well.
Oh!
And to see massive contacts now.
Yeah, they're big contacts. There's Adam Hedgecock and Phil Samways are involved in that one. More contact heading up through the Corvette corner. There's Adam Hedgecock in his Ferrari, trying to get back up to speed with Phil Samways, but they are a long way back from the rest of the field. But we stay green flag racing as they head through the carousel for the first time and head towards the kink. Potentially one of the most difficult corners on the track, and it's also a corner where you can see some big incidents. We saw it in real life in the Michelin Pilot Challenge a few weeks ago with a big crash on the exit of the kink. Everybody so far here doing a good job keeping it clean, because these drivers realise, as we look at the replay there, they realise that the race isn't won on lap 1.
Oh, but he can definitely lose on lap number 1, Mr. Polsbent, doesn't it?
Yes, it can be, and I can tell you on the timing screen that Jim Whitehouse and Jensen Adriansons are showing us dropping down the order as well. So there's what's happened to Jim and Jensen. Well, it was a bit of in sympathy, I think.
Yeah, it looks like it. I really want to see from his angle what happened, but we see more incidents coming into the final corner. Slightly the same incident that we saw in Canada corner not just long ago.
Andy Gilmore getting wheels on the grass. Here's Alex Gall and Jack Sedgwick. Oh, look at the gap already. Jeez. The front 3 have just waltzed away. Jack Sedgwick in his Ferrari getting caught up with Alex Gall. He's got Jared Caroni to keep him company as well. So the two Maradnas Satellite E-Stars drivers together don't touch each other. The last thing you want to do is hit your teammate. They've got Aubert behind them. Yeah, that's Aubert doing a good job so far. Up a few places, up into 7th place from where he... no, actually, he's down a place. He started in 6th place. You see, everyone believes that I know what I'm talking about in sim racing commentary, but it doesn't look like it. But Lorenzo, we're already seeing that gap pull away at the front. I mean, how big is that for those front 3 to get that gap so early on?
Can I say it's a lifetime, because of 3-4 seconds you don't catch it just like that really easily. As see Albert's camera going to the kink, and that kink is so tricky. I think for these GT3 cars you can kind of take them flat just for a slight lift, but depending on the setup you can actually get a little bit of an arrow push and go into the grass, and grass is lava basically in these kind of races. So for them to make it back, they have to work together. But judging from what we saw between Gal and Sedgwick, I don't think they have that mentality right now.
As we go into the final corner once again, important to get the launch out of that corner, because you've got to carry that speed all the way up this steep incline, over the start and finish line, and all the way down to turn number 1. And the slipstream is king around here. Sedgwick seems to be just pulling away slightly from that Porsche of Alex Gall. And that's the thing that Alex has struggled with this season, Lorenzo, is that Porsche, it doesn't quite have the top speed of some of the other cars, and it can be a sitting duck at some of these tracks.
Not only that, but it's a harder car to drive, especially when it goes to tracks that have a lot of bumps. The rear end wants to kick a little bit back more than usual. Let's just say going to Spa, you have to have a setup that kind of makes the compromise between speed and stability into the car. And Road America, I think, is one of those tracks as well. Not a lot of curves. Well, there is a lot of curves, but it's not a lot of curves that you probably would get in Spa in many transitions. But even then, the back of the car would want to step out by the end of the race, and you have to manage the tires quite significantly if you really want to be competitive.
We haven't talked about the conditions here. We are late, sort of into the afternoon. Track temperature is 32 degrees Celsius, so it's not too hot actually. It's overcast sky, So really, these drivers can actually afford to push those tyres a little bit harder than they would do normally in hotter conditions. So they'll be enjoying the slightly cooler conditions here today out there on track. As we look further down, I believe that is Adam Watson that we're looking at. No, it's Paul Webster. Tell you, I need to get my eyes tested at some point. But Paul, switch teams and cars. He's into the Audis. Andy Scheel is dropping down the order. Andy Scheel has dropped down our timing screen. I saw that on that, and he's having issues. And unfortunately, with the nature of racing online, it's Lorenzo. It's sometimes your internet connection can go.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's the equivalent of your engine failing by natural causes, right? It's nearly the same thing. It's devastating. It's ravishing. And look at Paul Webster going on the outside. Can he pull that off, that maneuver in turn number 1? I don't think he can, but if he goes side by side, it could be done.
It's a tough ask to go all the way around the outside there, and to make that one make that one count and finish off. As he's still carrying on, and he's going to stay in that position as Paul Webster for the time being. So down the go, down through the Moraine sweep. Yep, apparently that is a corner, although I wouldn't call it a corner. Here he goes again, looking to the outside. No, nothing, no room at the end there. That BMW is putting up a good defence here, and Webster's having to work this one hard on Richard Simner.
Yeah, but I think he kind of backed away on that second leg on the exit of the turn number 5, and he could have gone for it, but I think the BMW just kind of overly committed to the defense, and Paul, I think, knowing that it's early on, you don't go for these kind of maneuvers. And look at what the replay. Oh no!
Now that is Tim Perry, I do believe, and that's Jack Belton who got caught up in that as well. Into the gravel trap he goes, and that is hardly ideal. It's suboptimal if you were Ron Dennis. So he goes and carries on. At the front of the field, by the way, Alex Davidson isn't having everything go his own way, because James Armstrong has been closing up. There you see the front 3. So it's Davidson from Armstrong from Dadswell as we're getting towards the quarter of an hour mark. In your Pro-Ams, I can tell you that it's Matthias Drozda and Chris van der Ness who lead that one, with Mike Horder in 3rd place in Pro-Am. In Am, it is Sarah Raab who leads that one at the moment, ahead of Jack Osborne, who's in 19th, Paul Crawford, who is in 21st. So Sarah Raab, following on from that sensational drive last time out to finish 2nd in class at Road Atlanta, seems to be really enjoying these American tracks here.
Yeah, had a good string of results in the American tracks, and I think luckily for him, he's going to get some really good American tracks moving forward. Flipping on the grass, you can see the number 79 just going away and losing several spots back, and that's a little bit of pushing for Martin Young.
And of course, he's one of the drivers going for the AM Championship, don't forget, as well. Is Dion 2nd place coming into this week, and yeah, certainly dropping down the order. Is 39th on my timing screen here is Martin. So yeah, definitely it's going to be a long day for him in this one, as Raab actually goes around the outside of Ethan Critchley. So I think Critchley might have had an issue out there. The young man who has sensationally taken the championship by storm in Am, so much that he went up to Pro-Am, and that then means that he's going to be fighting for a Pro-Am championship after starting the season looking at Am, but drops down a place. So Sarah Raab, your top Am driver, now into 14th place here in this race. I'm keeping an eye, by the way, on the times and the timing screen. By the way, RaceSpotTV/timing if you do want to keep up to date with all the action here in this race. And it's basically close at the front. Alex Davidson is giving a lovely slipstream to James Armstrong. Now, if you're James here, Lorenzo, do you just sit back and enjoy the slipstream and the fuel saving?
Oh yeah, enjoy that fuel saving, baby. You can get you can get basically a full lap by fuel saving in a track like this, especially in a 40-minute race, because it looks like it is basically the same time as the officials you're doing an iRacing, and you can basically get a lap and go for an overcut.
Oh, there was a little bit of contact down at Canada Corner. Is that going to carry on? Now, there's obviously missing the bonnet and off into the grass and around the gut, and that's Paddy Faulkner having that issue. Back to live pictures though, and your front three still together and still doing a good job keeping it nice and clean. James Armstrong new to the championship this season. Brabham Esports new as well, not just to the championship but to the world of esports in general. They're having a good showing here today. Like I say, second place and seventh place at the moment for them, Lorenzo, and it's always great to see new names and a historic name in Brabham and coming into the esports world. Oh yeah, absolutely. I've been having the pleasure of commentating them on other league events. I think it's a recent operation of about a year and two, at least a year strong, and finally getting some threshold within iRacing, and of course more also present in other sims, but iRacing more specifically, they started to get a little bit of a traction, getting really good drivers, and starting to pay off a little bit. And let's see if it can be a long operation to see them in possible future special events and other leagues like that. But for them, really solid result. Nice save. That's a heart-in-mouth moment there for Tom Dadswell as he goes up under the bridge. That does lose him the slipstream though. He won't be liking that, but he will be liking the fact that he's still in this race after that big twitch. Jack Sedgwick behind them, by the way, has been lapping about on pace with the leaders. So he's not really catching, but they're not really pulling away either at the moment. So Sedgwick is just keeping that gap as it is as it comes out of that turn number 3 and head on down. And Alex Gall, not the worst place to be though, 5th place, and he's still got a slipstream and he's got his teammate behind on rear gunner duty, and doing all right in that Porsche.
And they're doing all right, but you can see he's not being able to catch, right? It kind of goes bang on what you said earlier, that the Porsche kind of lacks the speed and maybe the acceleration to remain under the draft. You might have to go for more an aggressive setup. We saw that with the Coanda team back in the spot 24. And you're going to look on the replay, one more incident at turn number 1, and that's a hard hit front for Porsche. Luckily, the engine of the Porsche is the back, but still lots of damage.
That's Alex Nella, and he has been having an absolute nightmare these last few rounds in that Porsche. And I mean, it's a typical Turn 1 incident at Road America, is that just run that little bit too wide, get over the curb, bit of dust and dirt on your tyres, and before you know it, you're heading straight to the scene of the accident. But yeah, Nella has just been having a nightmare all season in that Porsche. But one thing, going back to Alex Gall, we were talking about maybe compromising setups and things like that. One thing that does work in its favour, Lorenzo, is the fact that it is quite a frugal car and it's got good overall race pace.
Oh yeah, it does. It's very what is the best word? Is very consistent with the laps. If you can actually extract a good setup out of the car and you actually are comfortable running with it, you can run pretty much dead on with the leaders. But the difficulty is trying to extract the setup out of the car. I think, in my opinion, it's probably the most difficult car for you to try to put a perfect setup for a race, especially a race that it demands speed, it demands drafting, and also demands stability in the curbs. As we see, I think Mark Fletcher and Paul Webster in the pit box.
Yeah, so the first two to jump down onto pit road. Now, this is a little early for me. I mean, they will make it to the end of the race, but you're voluntarily leaving the slipstream and leaving that draft pack that you were in before there. So potentially then having to take on a little bit more fuel and run that a little bit longer with a heavier car. So we'll have to see how that pans out for them. But personally, I wouldn't have gone for that myself. But here we have Tom Brown and Ethan Critchley duking it out for position, and Critchley just able to hang on for the time being as they go under the Corvette bridge. Oh, the Indy Autosport red car. Well, that was a bit rude, forcing Critchley off the track there. Critchley takes to the grass, and Tom Brown gets a position, and Simner follows him through.
Yeah, and look, right next to, right in the corner right after, you can see a car behind the Indy Autosport car, the other BMW, trying to go for the overtake, but just cannot make that overtake cut on the number 24 for Simnor. And it's a difficulty that if you lose one spot here, especially at Corvette Bridge, it's so tricky trying to make it back because you're on the grass and you have to get the grip back up, especially for the corner right after, that you can lose 1, 2, 3 spots just like that, and your frustration just builds.
Frustration is certainly the word that I would use to describe what is probably going on in the cockpit of Ethan Critchley's car right now, but he's carrying on. He's only lost 2 places there, so it's not the end of the world for him. It's more of an inconvenience, really, is that, and he is close enough to be on for a slipstream as we go uphill. More cars heading to pit road, deciding that now's the time. And that's some Century Sim esports cars coming up. Century Sim Racing's Jack Osborne onto pit road now for his pit stop. We're about at the halfway point of the race already, Lorenzo. So, I mean, yeah, why not? Take your fuel stop halfway through, but I still would rather run it dry as far as you can.
Yeah, but there is a problem if you run it dry. Let's just say you are in the front. Let's just say you are Alex Davidson and James Armstrong in the front. If you're Davidson, you're going to have that lap less than Armstrong. You're going to have to compensate with the in lap or the out lap to be very a strong lap and not lose the lead. As we see the dive on the inside from Richard Simmer, and good overtake. That's a clean overtake over Brown, and let's see if the Indy Autosport driver is going to try to fight that, but it doesn't look like it. He's already breaking away a little bit.
Yeah, you called it that. Nice clean move down to turn 5, and Richard Simner now looking forward, and he's looking to next potential moves and positions for him as they go through the carousel once again. Simner, of course, coming into this round at fourth place, sorry, should I say, in the Pro-Am standings. So he's working his way through. He's trying to get himself the best possible result. The problem for him is that he's got a number of Pro-Ams in front of him. Matthias Drozda, for one, who is also trying to go for it. In 8th place, you've got Chris van der Ness in 10th, Mike Corder 11th, Andy Archer 12th. Before you get down to Simner, who's in 15th. So there's a number of Pro-Ams doing themselves a good service here up towards the front of the field as even more drivers come onto pit road now. That's the 99 of Adam Watson heading onto pit road.
Yeah, and that pit road is, it's also one of the trickiest pit roads because often not too many people see, oh, that's an easy pit road, but it isn't a blind crest. You have to kind of break deep in between the climb of the crest, as we see Paul Falconer right there trying to battle for position with your teammate in the AMG. Nice RaceSpot sticker on the back, gives you a 2 second, not 2, but 0.2 second advantage per lap. And Falconer going really hard on the curbing, and your teammate just kind of riding the curbing on the outside and slightly loose, but catches it back.
Michael Blake is running his car loose, has to open up his wheel though, because Paddy Faulkner down the inside, through he goes on Michael Blake. Of course, Michael Blake and Patrick Faulkner have already had to pit in this race after damage, so they're going to be carrying on, and they'll have to pit once more potentially as they go up the hill. So yeah, change of position. Paddy Faulkner moves up a position to 37th. Yeah. Only 39 cars remaining of the 44 or 43 that took to the start in this race.
And if you notice, all the incidents we had were early on, right, Paul, within the first 2 laps, and then we had other small incidents, but not racing incidents other than that. And that's good to see as we see James Armstrong try to catch up to Alex Davidson. And I was noticing, it's quite right, even though Armstrong is within that draft, the Pure Sims AMG is just flying on the straights. You can see he's breaking away a little bit, and that BMW M4, it's not catching at all.
Yeah, that Mercedes is rapid in a straight line. It's proved it all season, it must be said as well. And as we're past the halfway point of the race, we are in the middle of a pit stop phase, but it is Alex Davidson who leads this one, just half a second ahead of James Armstrong in second place. Tom Dadswell has dropped back now, and he's 2 seconds off the race leader in third place, but he's got a bit of a gap. It's between him and Jack Sedgwick. Alex Gall in 5th place. Your top Pro-Am is Matthias Drozda in 8th place, ahead of Chris Van Der Ness in 9th, and Andy Archer in 12th place. Sarah Raab 11th place for the Am, and that was a Mercedes at a jaunty angle then. It looked like it was on the being jacked up on one side.
If somebody's taking tires, I'm slightly surprised.
Yeah, you would expect nobody to be taking tyres here, so this is definitely going to be interesting to see, as there goes the full tilt V-Mud spot car of Phil Samways back out of pit road. Right behind, that's one of the Penguin RC simulation cars, back up to speed, and you've got to be careful feeding in that nobody's coming down the start and finish straight at full tilt when you're trying to get up to speed. Nicely done, back onto track, and I'm seeing my timing screen saying they're standing still. Jesse Payne Wilkins, well, they're not standing still anymore, but they have taken excursion to the grass, and that's at turn 7, I think.
Yeah,
no, turn 6, Corvette.
Yeah, Corvette, and I think the car just stepped way too loose on the outside and tried to catch it back, and immediately went into the sand, and lost a few seconds, precious seconds right there, as we see Bill Harrod and try to actually reach Archer and try to keep Simner away from him.
Well, I will say that it was just the slightest of touches on the grass, wasn't it? On the brakes.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what got the back end around.
Yeah, but so, you just need the slight tap, and it's already gone. The car, it's horrible.
As there's Pete Harrod, former champion, pro champion Pete Harrod, season 7, and here's more. Something's happening. Oh, that is very rude. That's a swapping of paint, and then finding a tyre wall is that Parabellum car. Back up and running though for them. They are still running, so that's okay. But that was a little bit rude from the Century Sim Racing car. Here's the DCW. Oh, down the inside of Pete Harrod. Harrod's not wanting to give this one up without a fight. The 24, Richard Simner, is being assertive here, and he's working his way through. Simner doing a good job. Up now, up into 13th.
Yeah, nice job from Simner, and now he got Archer on his back, on his front bumper, and all he can do is just slightly catch a little bit and pray to that his Century Sim teammate and Pete Harrod doesn't go for the fight back, which I think he might, because is the battle for the same spot in the championship, and we know that Simner, that car looks pacey with a lighter load in the fuel.
As we're counting down towards the end of the race here, just 15 minutes remaining here in this World GT Championship. Round number 5, race number 1 of the evening. 2 40-minute feature races here for you. A mandated pit stop, so you have to come down onto pit road and get yourself some fuel and serve that pit stop as well. Down onto pit road goes Andy Archer. So that means that Simner's been released. He'll carry on out there on track, whereas Archer is the latest one onto pit road. We've had about half of the field now onto pit road at least once now.
Yeah, and I think we're gonna expect everybody from the pros. I would say if I'm Pete Herron, that is one of the last guy in the pros within the top 15. I'll try to go for the pit and try to pit right now. And I think it's still a slight mistake from Archer right there, and that is gonna be bumming because if they don't make mistakes, that basically 2 places lost.
As they go downhill once again onto the brakes. Pete Harrod just staying where he is for the time being. Alex Davidson, by the way, at the front has been up to 1.5 seconds in the lead to James Armstrong, losing touch with Alex, because we had Pete Harrod on the screen there. So James Armstrong now 1.6 seconds back. I think Alex was maybe doing a bit of fuel saving early on here, Lorenzo, and now he's really turned up the wick.
Yeah, let's hope so, because if Alex done that, it's basically he's sealing the victory right there. You know the MG is a very good car. I think Alex is being very comfortable in it, so it will take, I think, I would say a miracle or for Armstrong, of course, and a tragedy for Alex Davidson to come to the pits. And yeah, they come into the same lap, which is for me slightly impressive.
Now, the question is Armstrong going to have a shorter pit stop because of having to take on less fuel? As behind them, Tom Dadswell as well comes onto pit road. And the Porsche, Alex Gall. I said it was frugal, and well, it's certainly showing its wares, that is for sure. There it is, to the race lead for the Maradnas Satellite E-Stars team. There's the rest of them. We've got a veritable pit party now with pretty much everybody else onto pit road right now.
Yeah, the only thing, don't make mistakes into the pit road. I think nobody did it. Everybody just done a clean, quick pit stop. That splash of fuel, that is going to be good enough for about, say, 5-6 laps, and that's pretty much it.
Oh, that's a long stop for Davidson. Don't say he's picked up a penalty onto pit road. He's still stationary on the pit stall. He's having to wait. Is that going to be a 15-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane? Or is it worse? He's still stuck there. He's not going anywhere. This is an absolute nightmare for Alex Davidson. His teammate is not here to compete against him. This is a perfect opportunity for him to pick up some big points. And he's sat there, he's revving the engine. Now he goes 52 seconds in the box. He's dropped from first place all the way down to 24th.
2 things. Number one, I wouldn't be surprised if of course he got a speeding penalty. That is at least 40 seconds in the lane, and in terms of fuel, you get about a 12-13 seconds at worst in terms of fuel. So for Alex Davidson is horrible. And the second thing is, come season, come go, whenever I commentate on Road America, I usually cut someone out. So the Lorenzo Bunders strikes again.
I'll have to ban you from the commentary box at this rate then if it's a Road America race, because something always happens, but you're absolutely right there. But one thing that is notable, Alex Gall onto pit road, so we only went 1 lap longer, did Alex, in that Porsche. So the question is, when will he come back out? It's Jim Whitehouse, by the way, who's retired from this race, whose car is at that funny angle. But here's Gall from Maradnas Satellite E-Stars, and we saw in the opening round of the championship at Barcelona, he started and was in the lower positions, and then he finished in second place in that race. Okay, it was an endurance race, but it shows that Porsche can gain you positions if you work it well. And he's away once again out of pit road. But James Armstrong for Brabham Esports takes the lead of this race over Tom Dadswell, who's in second place. The Altitude Esports team will be delighted with his performance here. And Alex Gall comes out right behind the man that he was fighting with before the pit stops, Jack Sedgwick. Sedgwick now up into third place with the troubles for Alex Davidson.
Which is insane to think about, and we know Gal can be a little bit more aggressive and going to try to maximize the usage of the draft. Of course, speed differences give a little bit of an edge for the Ferrari Evo, but of course, Gal can be very aggressive with the car, can push the tires a little bit more than the Ferrari. The Ferrari scrubs a little bit worse tires as the stint goes on, so he might give an edge to that Porsche maybe within the final 2 laps if Gals goes a little bit fancy into overtakes.
With 9 minutes remaining in this race, so we'll just give you a quick rundown. It is James Armstrong who is leading this one ahead of Tom Dadswell. Jack Sedgwick, that we're seeing on screen right here, is in third with Alex Gall right behind him, 4th place. Jared Corona and Yannis Albert are 5th and 6th places ahead of your top Pro-Am driver of Matthias Drozda in 7th place. He's not that far ahead of Adam Watson, who is in 8th. He's got a queue of cars behind him. Chris van der Ness, who's the 2nd place Pro-Am driver, in 9th. Mark Fletcher and Mike Horner, who's the 3rd place Pro-Am driver in 11th place. Sarah Raab is your top AM driver in 12th place right now, ahead of Paul Webster. Pete Harrod behind with Richard Simner. Your next AM, you're looking down my sheet here, I do believe it's going to be Paul Crawford and Jack Osborne in 19th and 20th places. Now with this championship, you score whatever points the position you finish in pays out. So you've not got individual championship points for Pro-Am and Am. Wherever you finish are the points that you take into the championship, and that will be helping Sarah out so much here today.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was just taking a quick look over here to see where Falconer is, because I think he's back in toward the second, which is, he's the leader of the AM class. He's struggling. Martin de Jong, which is P2, is also struggling. I'm trying to look for Payne Wilkins, but I cannot see him on this. Oh, actually, Payne Wilkins is back in P14 in last place of the running cars in the field. So that's a golden opportunity you can get in these kind of races in a track that, again, provides that argy-bargy and can be slightly confusing between the first few laps, and Sarah just took advantage of it.
Absolutely, but this is a cracking little fight here between Jack Sedgwick and Alex Gall. It's always great to see Jack out there in this championship, somebody of his quality competing in a championship like this. It gives the rest of the drivers a benchmark, doesn't it? Having somebody who's of a world championship caliber coming in, and there's Josh Thompson as well, races in this championship. Jacob Machursky, who is racing in the Porsche qualifiers. He's been racing this championship as well, although I don't see him here today. I say that, just checking down my timing screen. But, you know, when you've got drivers of that standard, Lorenzo, coming into a series like this, it gives the rest of those drivers a really good yardstick to see how they stand against them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And this great caliber of GT drivers, everybody with GT pro license experience, as we see, I think Ness Watson as Mark Fletcher's goes for 2 for 1, and great overtake for the 1111 going into the final corner and breaking away. Let's see if Gal's going to make that overtake on turn number 1 here. And I'll wrap it up my thoughts later.
It's the little Porsche that could. It's really trying its best to get there. And well, look at this now. Altitude Esports, 2 of their drivers together here. And that is Adam Watson trying to make moves, but Mark Fletcher in front. He's working it well. Behind them though, Chris van der Ness, one of the drivers who have been challenging for Pro-Am. He's not doing a bad job. Now, Mark Hutchinson, worth pointing out, did not qualify. He didn't have a penalty. He just couldn't get a qualifying lap in. Starting at the back of the grid, is up to 22nd place. That's a gain of 18 positions for him. So Mark Hutchinson, the biggest mover in the field. And another thing for these drivers to consider as we're heading towards the final 5 minutes of this race, we've got a reverse grid draw to come up after this race.
Ooh, and who doesn't love a reverse grid draw? I like it, and gives a little bit of spiciness into a race that is going to be just as exciting as this one. But just wrap it up, my thoughts and everything. Getting Sedgwick, we even had Luke Bennett, if I recall correctly, last season, right, Paul, if I remember correctly, and some other high caliber drivers that also have very good experience driving into these special events and big competitions as well. Having that caliber of drivers so you can measure up makes the championship grow up in racecraft and in challenge, and this one makes racing this very cool platform so you can measure yourselves against top talent anytime in these kind of events.
I've got the yellow flag showing down at turn 5 for Jack Belton and another driver as well. So drama has happened further down your field. Oh, and that's losing it under braking. Oh, 3 drivers involved in that incident. That's all from Belton just losing it, going into the braking zone at turn 5.
Yeah, that looked really weird. And the rejoin from the BMW down in the back looked a little bit weird as well. That is the rejoin that not many people want at the corner exit, which is basically the apex. And oh, Jack, don't you dare do me that right now. Don't you dare having connection issues right now.
Oh, he's just basically turned on the cloaking device, the World Championship cloaking device that he's got. That's what it is. But as we go out of turn number 5, just 3 minutes remain in this race. We should have about a lap and a half remaining in this one as they come out of turn number 7, down the Hurry Downs in towards turn number 8. Tricky corner this. You can hook the car in on that inside curb to really help you turn around that corner and then set yourself up nicely for the carousel. And Lorenzo, this is such a challenging corner to get absolutely right, isn't it?
It is, because there is so many ways to get this corner right. Some people just take it very tight. Some people actually kind of take it as a double apex. You know, attack it early, just try to have a little bit of a middle to late apex transition on the way out and try to avoid the curbing on the outside, because that curbing is slightly, it's not slightly banked, but it kind of bangs inwards and can offset your car a little bit. And the corner right after, which is Hurry Down, so if you don't take it properly, if you ride into the curb way too deep, the car can actually kick around and you lose stability and you completely lose momentum into the corner.
As we're heading on, oh, now we are going to be close actually. Do you know what? I think we're going to get an extra lap here because the leaders have gone across the line. We're only just reached 2 minutes remaining. Yeah, we're going to get an extra lap here. I hope people have got their fuel calculations right here, because my timing software was saying that this should be the last lap, but it isn't.
Oh no, this is definitely going to be the second to last lap. We're going to get an additional lap. Unless James Armstrong just decides James parked the car with like 5 seconds to go into the last corner and try to manipulate iRacing stuff.
But he can't, though.
No, I know, I just say the friendly tactics.
You know, Tom Dadswell is only 3.5 seconds back off of him. Oh, this is going to be interesting, and we have seen it this season. Drivers coughing and spluttering with fuel running out in the race when it's gone a lap longer, so it's not like it's something that hasn't happened already this season. As we go through the right-hander, plenty of action all the way through the field, but this is the battle for 3rd place. I just don't think that Alex Gala's got that advantage to be able to get ahead here, Lorenzo.
I agree. I think if he really needs to make a move, I think there's only one place he can try to go for his move, as we see Richard Simner again against Pete Harrod going to Hurry Downs, and we saw this battle happen, but we saw the switchback, and not far behind, look at Brown, the Andy Autosport car just being racy all over again, and he wants those positions back because he was in front of Simner at one point.
Yeah, he wants to get back up there as time does run out for these drivers. I'll tell you that your race leader is just coming into the final corner, and with 15 seconds left, we are definitely going to get that extra lap then. So, James Armstrong for Brabham Esports, there you see him, comes across the line with 4 seconds remaining in this race. We're going to get one extra lap. It's the last lap of the race. James is in the lead. It could be a first-time win for him and Brabham Esports in the World GT Championship. Let's just hope they've got their fuel calculations right.
Yeah, and let's see if we're going to see Gal making that movement to number 5, because I think that is the only place logistically you can actually make that movement, try to break away.
Has Tom Dadswell not got enough fuel, because his pace has dropped off at 2:05.9 the last lap, and look at him, he's right there in front of these two. I think he's struggling with fuel here. This could be a second place for Jack Sedgwick.
That would be a heartbreak for Dadswell, but a ball caught here, Paul. I didn't see actually that happen. Meanwhile, Brown and Aaron having a little bit of an RG far back, but this is very important, and this would be a heartbreak for Dadswell.
It would be a big result for Altitude Esports. Still Brown and Aaron getting very close into the braking zone around the outside of Simner. My goodness, they're almost making contact, but still they're keeping on the grey stuff. This is sensational stuff. Well, Dadswell, I do think, is struggling for fuel, and yes, he's pulling over. He's getting out the way. He just wants to get to the end of the race. The question is, can he? Because it's a steep uphill at the end of the lap. But speaking at the end of the lap, James Armstrong, who has been leading since the pit stops, the final 15 minutes, but it's important 15 minutes for him at the front of the field, because Brabham Esports, James Armstrong, there you see him. Wiggle! He's got a grin on his face. He knows he's got a race win under his belt in the World GT Championship. Take that away, flash of the headlights. James Armstrong, you are a winner. Sensational stuff for James Armstrong for Brabham Esports. Jack Sedgwick holds on to second place ahead of Alex Gall, Jared Crone and Yannis Albert. Yannis Albert making it a top 5 for Brabham Esports, and Tom Dadswell just crosses the line, but he went all the way from 2nd to 7th. That is heartbreak.
That is total heartbreak. That is the worst feeling you can have as Sarah Robb goes into the start finish line in the AM class. Dominant win for the amateur driver. And what a drive. And Drozda also coming in for the Pro AM class.
And Brabham Esports are already getting the photos right. He's got the sunglasses on. Who can blame him? Oh, enjoy that one, James. That was simply a fantastic race from him. Matthias Drozda, you pointed it out, Pro-Am winner, and Sarah Raab, your Am winner here today. Well, I asked, did everybody have their fuel calculations right there? And unfortunately for Tom, he didn't have it right.
Yeah, and that's just the worst. And let's see the spinning wheel here, Paul.
So then, this is what will decide our reverse grid position. As that wheel slows down, we're not going to get a full one, but it looks like it's a big one though for us, because that is going to stop. We'll wait for it to confirm. When it lights up yellow, you know that that's a position, but it's pretty safe to say that 34th is going to be getting pole position, and we'll run through the results in just a second to give you who will be starting pole position. But it is a win for James Armstrong for Brabham Esports, his first in the World GT Championship. He finishes 6.8 seconds ahead of Jack Sedgwick for Inex Racing in second place. Alex Gall for Maradna Satellite E-Stars couldn't quite get it done ahead of Cedric McGims himself a good podium, with Jared Caroni in 4th place. Yanis Albert makes it 5th place for Brabham Esports as well, ahead of your Pro-Am winner, which is Matthias Drozda for Satellite Racing. 6th place overall in this race, a tremendous result for the Pro-Am driver. Altitude Esports, well, it's what could have been for Tom Dadswell. He finishes in 7th place ahead of his teammates Mark Fletcher and Adam Watson in 8th and 9th places respectively. Chris Van Der Ness for Evo SR rounds out 2nd place in Pro-Am, 10th place overall. 11th then for Mike Horder for Boosted Virage. That's at 3rd place in Pro-Am for him, ahead of Paul Webster for Full Tilt V Motorsport. Sarah Raab, Penguin RC Simulation, congratulations, this is her first AM win here in the championship, and done it quite in dominant fashion over the rest of the AMs as well. Richard Simner, a forceful drive into 14th place ahead of Tom Brown. Pete Harrod 16th ahead of Ethan Critchley, with Andy Archer 18th. 19th place, second in AM, is for Century Sim Racing Jack Osborne, with Ed May for Three Spies Mudsport. 3rd place in AM, 20th overall. Rest of your field then, Mark Hutchinson for Evo SR, biggest mover in your field, 19 places gained for him into 21st. Alex Davidson, it was a pit stop from hell for him to finish in 22nd after leading the first half of the race, ahead of Matt Woodhouse, Ben Gregory, Jensen Adrianson, Euron Kaiser, Paul Crawford, Adam Coles, Lars Van Rijn and Adam Hedgecock. 31st for Brian Sun, ahead of Alex Neller. Then the front row of the grid for the next race is going to be, right, now that's slightly different to my timing screen. I'm going to have to confirm it, but on our timing screen there, it's got Jesse Payne Wilkins and Michael Blake, although on my end, it does actually say Andy Gilmore. We'll have to have that checked out, but yeah, so it's Phil Samways though in 36th ahead of Patrick Faulkner, Martin de Jong, Jack Belton and Tim Perry round out the top 40. And the rest of them that took the starts: Kevin Kittleman, Andy Shield and Jim Whitehouse. So there we go, Lorenzo. That is race number 1 of the evening done and dusted. That was simply sensational. Yes, there we go. It's just updated for us now, and it is Andy Gilmore who will be starting on pole position for the Century Sim Esports team. But yeah, Lorenzo, your first time, 40-minute feature race. We've got it all to do again, and it's a big reverse grid coming up.
Oh yeah, it's a big reverse grid. I think low-key Alex Davidson is going to love that, because he's been 28th second. It's going to start what? Don't ever trust commentators' math. It's going to start at 11th, I think. Or 14th or 13th, but it's still gonna start much better than everybody else in the pro standings. So he's gonna get that massive advantage. But I think Alex Neller is gonna be the bigger winner. But of course, he's been struggling in this track, trying to find a proper setup, maybe this and the pace as well. But we always know that reverse grids mean one thing: chaos. And I think you know better than I do, Paul, what chaos can bring within the first few laps in a track like this.
Well, I mean, the thing is, we don't want chaos to happen. That's the first thing. We want it to be a nice, clean race. And a lot of these drivers realise 40 minutes, anything can happen in that time. But also, you can pick up so many places at the start, but as we said at the start of the race, you can lose a race on lap 1. So you've really got to play the percentages as to whether you go for moves or not.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But the problem is, I think you're in a track that invites these kind of long dives. You can see turn number 5, turn number 1. You can get these problematic moves on lap number 1 and 2, where everybody's bunched up together, especially in a rolling start. So you have to be kind of mindful, especially in a reverse grid where everybody's mixed up. You got amateurs with pro-ams, and you got pros in the middle. So who's going to make the overtake at which point in the track? So you can lose so many spots. And I think the best example, I think, in our opinion, might be Mark Hutchinson, where we saw him gain 18 spots just by navigating through the madness that we had within the first 3 laps, and just maintaining positions and gaining maybe just by pure pace. But you have to be playing with your brain every single lap that you do with these reverse grids.
You certainly do, and Mark Hutchison, of course, your reigning Pro-Am champion. He knows what it takes to win a championship. I do want to give a mention, though, then. First of all, James Armstrong. I mean, he did everything right. He put the car on the front row of the grid. He stuck with Alex Davidson for his stint, the opening stint of the race, got the pit stop done, and then he must have been laughing when he left that pit and saw Alex still stuck there.
Oh yeah, I don't know who he would be laughing at, Davidson making a mistake or me cursing Alex Davidson, saying that, hey, it's an uphill braking zone, it's slightly blind coming into the cones, and he can easily get a penalty over there, and immediately right after happened. So it's a little bit of a letdown for Davidson, but of course I think he knows what to do in the next race to avoid that kind of mistake. But that's the problem with America. It invites you every single area, especially even at the braking zone, coming to a pit entry to get these kind of penalties. And we're going into tracks, if you look after in the calendar, that does the same thing. Daytona is basically the same thing.
Well, actually, I don't know if Hugo, our producer, could actually bring that up then, the schedule, because just to show you that you're discussing the different tracks. I mean, Daytona, if ever there was a slipstream track, Daytona Road is that particular track next week, and that's going to be 3 20-minute sprint races, so everybody's going to be going full guns for that, won't they, next week at Lorenzo?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You got Daytona Road, which we know that is drag race and is going to be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 wide into this finish line, if we ever allow that. We saw that in WTCS last season. You were part of it of sorts, Paul. So you kind of felt that in your bones as we see the road track right there. It's going to be next week, 8 p.m. BST, British summertime. But it's going to be a very exciting race. And then we go to Fuji, right? Fuji, another track that is going to rely on these big dives. Also a little bit of a draft coming into turn number 1, and the the entry of the pit lane also one of the trickiest, because it's you are in a straight line. You kind of have to go into a immobile, invisible chicane, and then go into the pit box. It's tricky, but it's going to be a very exciting race to see. Also in the Japanese track.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one that I'm looking forward to, because it's the first time that we've had the track in the series. So it'll be intriguing to see how things pan out for the competitors in this championship. Now, another driver I want to touch on from that first race, Matthias Drozda. We didn't really talk about him at all in this race, and yet got himself a Pro-Am win, finished himself, what was that? I'm just looking at my timing screen, in 6th place. I mean, you can't ask for better from a Pro-Am driver.
No, of course not. I think that is really great from Drozda right there, as you can see in the camera. I think he benefited a little bit from the start that he had. A solid car as well, trying to ride the draft. The setup was really good for the BMW. I think the boys at Moranda Satellite eStars Esports, so they did a really good job to try to keep that car planted, and been quiet all day. I think he hasn't been pressured at all by anybody within the Pro-Am or Pro standings, to be very honest, and just did his race.
He certainly did do his race, but Sarah Raab as well. That's a debut win in AM. I did say last week had a second place. I think it's taken Sarah a little while to get used to how the championship runs and how competitive things are out there. But now that Sarah's got that win, that AM win under a belt, surely can go on to bigger and better things now.
Not only that, but she gets a massive benefit from everybody up in the front, everybody literally battling for the championship. If I just saw, she's in 6th place. She had 298 points in the championship, and considering the struggles of Falconer, the young Payne Wilkins, and I think also Hedgecock as well, everybody in this race, having that really good result is going to give her a big boost moving forward.
Yep, certainly. So we've got some new names in the championship this season, and they're getting themselves to the front of their respective fields. So it's really good to see these new people come in, and it's one of the strengths of this championship. They have pretty much a core following a good 3/4 of the grid they seem to get each and every season of this championship. But then the second lot, the newcomers that come in, it's a really competitive championship is this, and you each year just get new and new drivers coming in, and they either get it straight away, they either take a bit of a while to get used to it, or they just don't get the hang of it at all and end up leaving.
Yeah, and there's a championship that I think what makes it more interesting as well is a championship that you have so many different formats within one championship alone, right? One race you got feature, another race you got endurance, so you have to plan the race in so many different aspects that it's kind of hard for you to try to organize what kind of practice you really want to do for each and every round that you're going to go towards. So I think this format brings out the dedication out of the drivers, see if they're building setups, organizing strategies, see where they're gonna be race-based wise, engage everybody within their team. So that's what I think makes it really interesting, this championship. I nearly tried to actually register it, but because I moved to Portugal, I just couldn't do it. But I had a massive interest in partaking in the championship, in the GT, but because it is such a unique championship, this kind of a format, you don't see that anywhere else.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the strengths of the championship. It's got something for everybody, and you've got race action for everybody out there on track, because you've got those 3 different classes of championship and as well. Now, it's worth pointing out that the series sponsor 3M, they do sponsor this championship. They've been sponsoring it for quite a few seasons now, and they do provide prizes to the drivers for the winners of the respective championships. If you win the Pro Championship, you can get yourself a pair of custom S19 boots or the Sensor 16 gloves with your team logo on them. That's the prize for the Pro Champion. For the Pro-Am and Am champions, they get those Sensor gloves with the team logo on as well. So some really good prizes. There are further prizes as well for second, third place in each category as well. So we've got a good set of prizes for the championship and for the drivers out there. And really, it certainly gives some drivers a bit of an incentive. Not just that, they also get a trophy as well if they do win.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Getting these prizes it's really cool, you know, especially everybody is, I would say, is a racing fan or a racing enthusiast. I think is the better word to put it, because either they're involved in karting or they're involved in amateur racing or doing track days. So this kind of boosts and give you some gear to try to go for this kind of events. As we have action in the track now, we're seeing the number 83 around doing a little bit of a warm-up here, Paul, and I can't wait to see this reverse grid. I think I really want to see how aggressive the guys in the Pro will be, because this track I think will be the main aggressiveness out of the guys in the back of the field in the Pro standings, rather than the guys that start in the final places.
Well, it's going to be a question of who does what, when, and how. If you're starting at the front of the field, like our pole sitter, when you're normally involved in the mid pack, it can be quite disconcerting. Andy Gilmore's going to have his hands full with a number of drivers behind, but you've got to take that. You've got to just push aside any negativity that you may have in your mind as to how you could potentially go out there. At the end of the day, you're starting on pole. You're the one who dictates when you go for that green flag. Yeah,
and once the pace car goes out, you can go at any time. And but the thing is, you're going on an uphill, so you try to catch it by surprise. Some people leave it really late, whenever you're just over the grass and you start accelerating, and everybody at the back needs to pick up the pace, and it's going to take quite a while for the car to build up speed and be in a proper place for you to, get a really good running. As Jack Sedgwick takes the alternate line. This is not rallycross, but I'd like to see that from Jack, as unfortunately he didn't flip and lived up to his name.
Yeah, I'm gonna say I don't recall there being a rallycross track here at Road America, but it is Wisconsin. It is the home of cheese, of course, and you do have the Johnsonville Sausages logo as well over the bridge as they go into the carousel. Track conditions, by the way, a little bit cooler than race number 1, so the drivers will be able to push on, but it is only partly cloudy, whereas in race 1 it was an overcast sky, so the skies have cleared up a little bit out there, but it is later into the evening here for the second race.
I think the fact that it's later in the evening makes up for the fact that it's overcast, so you're really not going to get a very hot track regardless. And you can actually push the tires much more than you probably did in the first race. But look at the wind. It's picking down a little bit, but it was about 14-15 kilometers. Depending on the direction that is the wind is going at, maybe let's just say it's going eastwards or westwards, it can make the car really unbalanced as you go through some of the corners that demand the downforce whenever you brake or try to make fast transitions.
I can tell you that the winds are southwesterly, so yeah, it's I mean the turn 1, the run into turn 1 is basically due south, so this run down into turn 1 for these drivers is due south, so you're gonna have a little bit of a tail / side wind for you going into turn 1. So really for those main corners, you'd have to say that the run through 3 down to 5, you could have a better opportunity of a slipstream with you being against the wind there.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and you don't have to have a setup that kind of, I would say, try to avoid being loose going to the corner, because you're not going to get any crosswinds or something of the nature. You can basically suck up the air, not just from nature, but the other cars as well, and kind of have a little bit of a mix of dirty to clean air and make those moves a little bit more often than usual.
Now, Lorenzo, let's pretend that you're racing the series. We're coming into race 2. What are your thoughts? Are you making any changes to your setup? Are you maybe putting in an extra few litres of fuel after race 1? What's your plans going into this race?
If I have a good pace, I would try to match up with everybody else and see where I'm going to end up. I'm probably not going to change anything. Just try to keep the car as it is and see where it's going to lead me next. But I can say one thing: if I'm Tom Dadswell, then I can surely say I'm going to be putting a few liters if I go into a pit stop so the car doesn't run out.
Yeah, that miscalculation, it's heartbreaking for him. And it's been tough on him, but certainly he will be looking forward to the second race and trying to make amends. But speaking of the second race, we've got a grid that we've got to fire through, so let us bring you your grid, and it is going to be Andy Gilmore and Jesse Payne-Wilkins front row of the grid for those two, with Alex Nella and Brian Cern row number 2. Row 3 for Adam Hedgecock and Lars Van Rijn. 4th row of the grid for Adam Coles and Paul Crawford, with Jeroen Kaiser and Jensen Adriansons on row number 5. Row 6 for Ben Gregory and Mark Woodhouse. 7th row of the grid for Alex Davidson, with Mark Hutchinson alongside him. Ed May and Jack Elsborn share the next row of the grid, with Andy Archer and Ethan Critchley on row number 9. Row 10 for Pete Harrod and Tom Brown, with Richard Simner and Sarah Raab on row 11. Row 12 for Paul Webster and Mike Horder. 13th row for Chris Van Der Ness and Adam Watson, with Mark Fletcher and Tom Dadswell sharing the next row. 15th row of the grid for Matthias Drozda and Yannis Albert. Jared Crony and Alex Gall, then the two teammates line up on the next row, with the 17th row shared by Jack Sedgwick and James Armstrong, your race winner from race 1, Michael Blake, Patrick Faulkner the next row, and then the rest: Phil Samways, Martin de Jong, Jack Belton, Tim Perry, Kevin Kittleman and Andy Shield round out your 42 car starting grid. And we are under pace. We've got the pace truck, the Silverado, so you know it's an Alex Nella session when he does it. Waiting patiently now is Andy Gilmore up the hill. He's holding them a long time. Green flag is in the air. We're underway for another 40 minutes of action here in the World GT Championship, round number 5 of season 12, as we plunge down towards turn number 1 then. Everybody everybody just trying to vie for position. We've got a car, 2 cars off, 3 cars off. Oh, it's just a veritable smorgasbord of cars. Sarah Raab, your AM winner from first race, into the side of Ed May. We carry on with green flag action though, down through turn 3, in towards turn 5. Well, we've had a bit of drama in turn 1. Now, can we get more drama in turn 5, or will it stay clean, Lorenzo?
I really don't think so. I'm nearly seeing 3 wide going to turn number 5, a few dives. Oh, look at the dive! No!
That was an Evo SR car and an Altitude Esports car. It's Adam Coles who's facing the wrong way in his Lamborghini. He collected one of the Altitude Esports cars, and that's them dropping down the order. Absolute nightmare for Adam Hedgecock. As we carry on, still green flag action, so we're keeping it relatively clean. I say that Chris Van Der Ness, he's off into the wall. He's got a full tilt V Motorsport car with him. I believe that's Paul Webster, it is. So Paul Webster, one of your Pro-Am contenders last season. Big tank slapper. Can we get all out the way? Yes, they do. The field scatter. Oh, he's coming back into the track. Absolute carnage going on out there. Big crash. Oh my goodness. There's not a track blockage though. This is absolutely incredible. Normally you'd see a track blockage for something like that, but we're staying green.
How do they manage to keep that running? I don't know how. Especially with the car emerging back at the exit of the carousel. Well, that would have been the save of the year. I'm speechless. I'm actually speechless.
We've got a fight for the lead. It's Jesse Payne Wilkins and Andy Gilmore going neck and neck in towards turn number 1. Turns in and Jesse Payne Wilkins takes the lead. My goodness, dramatic opening lap here in the World GT Championship. As we carry on, we've got a car missing its front end there. That's one of the DCW cars. I believe it's Richard Simner who's missing the front clip. He'll have to get that repaired, but fortunately in this championship you do get a free fast repair, so you do get quick repair of your car.
Yeah, which is fortunate, but I really don't know how he's going to perform in that car as we see more moves coming to turn number 5. Look at the P15 trying to make it nearly 3 wide into turn number 5, but makes the corner anyway, and everybody funneled it into one abreast. And meanwhile, I think Alex Neller, Alex Davidson, and Adam Watson, I think appreciate the fact that it had chaos in the back.
Well, Alex Davidson is loving this because he's up to 6th place already in this race. You got Mark Woodhouse up to 5th after that opening salvos there. Richard Simner's up 11 places. There's Ethan Critchley. He's working his way through. He's up 2 places. My goodness. So Critchley, he got his first ever win in this championship at Monza. Race number 3 at Monza after a good evening for him, and into the brakes. Getting close to the back of that field, but he's been promoted to Pro-Am, which is his reward for doing so well in Am. And he's doing not a bad job here today as well. 16th place right now for Ethan Critchley, but it is Jesse Payne Wilkins, Andy Gilmore and Alex Neller, the front 3, with Paul Crawford and Mark Woodhouse, and then a little bit of a gap, and then it's the big name, the man who started on the front row of the grid in race number 1. Alex Davidson is up 7 places. He's trying to move forward. My goodness!
What?
Well, that is not a place to have a car parked. I think they're trying to let the field past them. I believe that was Adam Coles, it was. I think they must have just exited pit lane, and they've just parked it right on the entry to turn number 1. That's hardly ideal, I would say.
That is completely suboptimal if you're going to try to make that maneuver into letting everybody by. I'm baffled. I never seen that being done in quite a while. I've seen that happen in practice, but I've never seen that being done in a race.
well, amazingly, everybody was able to avoid them, so we've been able to keep going. But yeah, that is big. But I am amazed at how well Richard Simner's car is performing here. I'm just wondering whether it's more of a graphical thing rather than actual performance-wise from our end, because he goes round the outside of the carousel on Lars van Rijn.
Who needs bumpers? I think that was the strategy. Make the car lighter, you know, remove the bumper. You have at least, what, 3 kilos less in the car. Aerodynamically, you can air cool it. Yeah, air cool the car as well. Have a good setup in the wing. Bam, there you go.
Adam Watson and Tom Brown make their way past Lars van Rijn as well for the boosted Virage driver. Of course, he was the AM champion last season. Did such a good job. He's coming under pressure now from that Maradnas Satellite E-Stars driver. And as they go up the hill... Oh, we've got a car around. That's Ethan Critchley. Oh, then there's cars. There's other cars. There's a Maradnas Satellite Esports E-Stars car around. Ethan decides to take to the pits. What on earth happened there on the exit of the last corner?
I have no idea. I really want to look on the replay, but it looks like there was another car, like you said, from Maradnas, and looked like contact.
Jared Corona. Jared Corona, yeah. Well, here we go. It's a move on the inside from the Indy Autosport red car. Well, that's a little silly as that, and the Maradnas car collects another one as well for good measure, and Ethan trying his desperately trying to get to pit road, going through. And speaking of going through, that's Alex Nella up to second place in this race. Alex Davidson is on the back of this group of cars now.
Yeah, he's already making move number one on Crawford already to seal the deal, and there you go. Davidson going now into the top 5 of the race. Now Mark Woodhouse right in front of him. How long until that AMG from Pearson is going to catch that number 38? I would say very short. I would say about a lap or two before he actually makes that.
Well, Mark Woodhouse has had a season to forget in that Team Man Mercedes AMG, and he's in 4th place right now. He'll be hoping just to get a half-decent result here today in this one, because whenever we've seen him on the RaceSpotTV coverage, he's always been either facing the wrong way or in a wall somewhere. So he's not had fun as Mark Woodhouse. There's our pole sitter out of the final corner. He's getting a slipstream off of Alex Nella. The rest of them going up the hill, and I'm seeing yellow flags on my timing screen for Tom Dadswell. There it is. So he's gone for a ride. He's been trying to get over the Canadian border by the looks of things.
It looked like he entangled with another driver. Looks like it, from what looks on the camera, might be Sarah Rabb that he entangled going on Canada corner.
Oh, Woodhouse gets the run on Gilmore. Gilmore ran wide out of turn 3. Alex Davidson is going to follow through, and he's going to try and actually get up to 3rd place here. Is Alex 2 places gained in one move for the pro driver. He's got Alex Nella behind him. There comes Crawford down the inside of that DCW racing car. Gets the move done on Gilmore, and unfortunately for Andy, he's just dropping back down the order here. But it's still Jesse Payne Wilkins who leads this race right now, but it's only about a 1.5 second lead over Alex Nella. Alex Davidson's in 3rd place, as we say, and Mark Woodhouse, top of your Pro-Ams, in 4th place. So a good mixture of cars up there in the top 20. Your biggest mover, by the way, Mark Fletcher. No, actually, take that back. It's not Mark Fletcher. He is up 20 places, though, it's worth saying. James Armstrong is up 21 places, as is Andy Scheel as well, who has started right at the very back of the grid. So James Armstrong is on a bit of a charge.
Yeah, look at him not far behind us. We're going to see the move between Adam Watson and looks like Ben Gregory. Ben on the inside. Can he actually pull that move off?
And the sole McLaren on the grid, Ben Gregory, and I think it's showing why. It doesn't have the pace of the rest of these cars, unfortunately, and he is struggling in that car this season as he's now got Matthias Drozda right behind him. James Armstrong looking to make some moves here, pulls out, and that's going to harm Drozda because it's boxing him in. And you see, that's a brilliant move if you ask me. James Armstrong's boxed in Drozda and said, no, not on my watch.
And poor Drozda, the only thing he could do is actually bump draft Ben Gregory to turn number 1 to try to keep up that pace. And look at Ben, slightly aggressive, going to defensive mode and try to retain the position from Drozda going to turn number 3. But nice defense for now, but how long he can actually hold this one, I don't think he will be able to hold against those 3 cars in the back.
So as we head on down towards turn number 5, Gregory is, I think it's a losing effort, is that, unfortunately, in that car. And, and around he goes, in fact. And he's put it straight into the wall there. Ben, I'm sorry, I was talking to him earlier and he said it was going to be a painful night for him. And, well, he is around and gets back up and running now. But I don't know if we were going to have a look back at what happened at the start of the race. Well, here's what happened with Alex Neller then and Adam Hedgecock. And it was that move down the inside from the Adam Cole's car that took out Adam Hedgecock. So that happened on lap number 1, so that was drama there. And then further on the lap, this is where the chaos happened for Brian Sohn.
Oh, there was contact. I thought it was natural. You know, the car just stepped out on its own, but no, the rejoin though. Oh my God.
I mean, he will have been holding the brakes there as best as he can, but when you're on that grass,
you cannot blame him. You can't.
Nah. And then we carry on because that carries on out there, and then the Indy Autosport red car gets collected. Does an amazing job. Meanwhile, the Century Sim Racing car ends up in the wall. But Jensen Adriansen, I must say, save of the day for my money is Tim Perry's view of all that happened on lap 1.
Imagine you see a pile of smoke and the car trying to go left and right in front of you. Complete mayhem. Ow. And the pain never stops, it just keeps going.
And you get a spotter saying car left, car right, car left, car slow left, car slow right. Here's what happened with Tom Brown. Down into Canada corner, onto the brakes. That's Adam Watson that he's racing with. Oh, and they get together. Maybe Brown just didn't quite leave the space, I don't know. More replays coming. This is what happened to Dadswell, so we get to see what happened here. That's Sarah Raab. I think you're going to be right here.
Ooh.
I think Sarah was just trying to open up the corner as much as possible and has just tagged the side of Dadswell there, hasn't she? And that's what's caused that incident. But we're back to live action because Alex Davidson has made it to the front of the field.
Is anybody surprised that he's actually made it back to the front of the field as we see what happened to Andy Gilmore? Drop back, oh no, into the grass, immediately into the wall, and that car is done. He has to tow it back to the pit lane.
Yep, that is day done as around the final corner. So Alex Davidson has made it to the front. 12 places gained. And that means that he's at the front of the field. And this is where he was in race number 1. He'll be hoping to have not happen what happened in race number 1 and have a good clean pit stop for this second race.
Watson's pitting.
So Adam Watson, yeah, one of your first pit stoppers. 25 minutes remaining. As there's more cars dropping down the order on our timing screen. Your own Kaiser has dropped down. Here's how the race lead happened though. Here's the change. Jesse Payne Wilkins and Alex Davidson into Canada corner, and Alex had had that done by the time they made it to Canada corner, as here's Alex Neller now trying to get past Jesse Payne-Wilkins, and does so in that Porsche.
Yeah, and I think that was a little bit of an eased up move from Neller. I think Wilkins just didn't want to fight too much because he knows he's winning the class and getting really good points. And I'm gonna be very honest, I was lightly impressed by Wilkins' pace at one point, because I thought that I would say Davidson is going to reach Neller first, make the overtake, but I think Neller was going to be able to keep up with Davidson and kind of making Inosuke instead overtake, and becoming like Wilkins would go from first to third in a blink of an eye. But no, it took a little bit of a while to develop that move. So well done by the AM, the class winner so far.
As I could tell you, James Armstrong, we've lost him, and it looks like a connection issue. So it looks like an internet issue for James Armstrong, your race winner from race 1. Oh, he was on such a charge as well through the field, was James, so he is going to be down and out of this race. If he can get rejoined into the session and get himself back out there, he can get himself some points, but it won't be it won't make up for the fact that he is out of this second race. As we carry on, Yannis Albert then in 11th place for the Brabham Esports outfit, and he's the one flying the flag now as they go into turn number 1. And yes, I knew that he'd be around somewhere. Dave Crozier, hello. Yes, you've got to remember, Lorenzo, that Mark Woodhouse's nickname by Dave Crozier is Stud Muffin.
There are things that goes in mad racing that I'm never going to understand, but hey, you get my some.
First of all, if you're gonna say the name, say it right. It's Team Mad. It's not Mad Racing.
Oh, sorry, Team Mad. All right. Okay, fine. You know, I've been butchering names in this entire race. What is one more name, right, Paul?
But yeah, nothing surprises me with Dave. As we carry on, we've got Adam Watson here, and there you see Adam still recovering from a broken bone in his arm, his elbow. He was struggling. He had to turn down the force feedback on his wheel to be able to carry on racing. So he's been doing it hard, as Adam switching sides between the two of them into turn number 5, and they carry on, but Watson just holding on to that position. Flash of the headlights from Tim Perry. He didn't appreciate that, but Watson's fighting that Audi.
Well, he has to make up moves, especially given the fact that Armstrong is out and Davidson is having a dominant race so far, and already opened up nearly a 5 whooping seconds on Alex Neller in this race.
Apparently, James Armstrong's system did crash, so that's why he lost connection with the server. But I have seen that he's connected back to the server, so we should see him back out there and at least get himself some points. It won't be much consolation, as I said earlier, but he'll still be wanting to do it. And these two again swapping lines partway through. They're asking for trouble of these two. It's almost inevitable that there's going to be an accident between them, and I'm afraid it's going to be their own doing at this rate, because they keep on switching lines as they're getting close to each other, and you're just asking for trouble doing that.
Yeah, especially going into Canada corner, there is a point at the track. Of course, the camera angle didn't favor too much, but I honestly thought they were going to make a little bit of an incident where there would be a team bone movement. Look at Tim Perry on the outside now. Has the speed. Can the Audi kind of match that going to turn number 1? That is going to be the key question right here.
The grunt on that Mercedes, but the Audi, the last of the late breakers, is Adam Watson. He throws it in there. It's worth pointing out, by the way, Mark Fletcher up 24 places now. He's into 3rd place overall. He could be a dark horse for a podium at least, because Alex Davidson has pulled out a 5-second lead. Wow. As they go down the hill into turn number 5, and Watson for the time being hangs on to that place. But yeah, these two have been playing with fire here, and they might want to just calm it down a little bit.
I agree, especially looking at turn number 1 move, right, where Adam kind of threaded the needle with the car, playing a little bit with the air and everything, just to try to avoid a possible T-bone move from Tim Perry going to the exit of turn number 1 and turn number 2. So you're definitely playing with fire, but then again, you have the Audi. It's a car that we know historically is a car that is very live on curbing, as we see then Mark Woodhouse coming into the pit lane for his pit stop, and right now he's not in the best shape in terms of fighting other people's on straight.
As he goes to his pit stall, he's further down the pit lane than he's used to this season with that reverse grid, so he'll find his stall, get his fuel done, and then get back out there. But still, Simner carries on. I mean, it does make me think that it is more of a graphical issue rather than anything, because that car should not be performing as well as it does without the front clip, that front aerodynamic, the air dam. Although I will say, personally, I think it looks better than with it on.
Yes, I'm gonna agree 100%. It makes the M4 front less hideous than it already is. I already mentioned this a couple of thousand of times. I cannot stand the front of that BMW M4. Bring back the M6 front.
Oh, Jack Sedgwick down the inside. Big move. And he has got that place and done it well. Nicely done down the hurry downs, and gets a position gained. I did notice that Adam Watson no longer has, as Matt Fletcher now moves up into second place, Adam Watson no longer has Tim Perry with him. And Perry has dropped down the order to 24th, so something's happened to the boosted Virage driver.
He bit it.
There. No, he'd already pitted. And,
oh yeah, true. So yeah, sorry, yeah, something has happened. He jumps
uphill. Here we go. This is what's happened. Watson late onto the brakes again. Oh, little wiggle mid-corner from the Audi. And Tim Perry ends up nerfing the tyre barrier.
I don't know. It's kind of like, it's tricky. I don't know if what can I make from this incident, right? Because we should. I really want to see before the turn was made to see if there is any aggressiveness coming from Watson going to turn number 1, because he did that on the lap prior to this one. It worked, but barely made it work. And this time now the contact has made, because the Mercedes was just slightly superior on the grip on the corner exit.
Right, well, we're on board with Alex Nella. He's really trying to wheel this Porsche. He wants to get himself a podium result, because he has been not having the best of times, as I said, with this Porsche. And the Boosted Motorsport driver is going along down into turn number 8. Hook the car in over that curb. Underneath the Johnsonville Sausages advert hoardings, the sausages are available as we come through the carousel. Beautiful evening here at Road America. Into the kink. Flat out, no lift whatsoever there. That shows you how much grip these GT3 cars have.
Yeah, the downforce that Porsche has is just something impressive. And I think for Alex Neller, the thing is he needs to stick with Mark Fletcher the entire time, because we saw that Mark was just closing on a pure pace. And I think for Alex to try to have a P2 fight at the end of the race, he has to hang as much as he can and going to the pit stop, but doesn't look like it. The number 67 is going to go for a possible undercut.
Onto pit road for him. I've got a yellow flag down at turn number 1 as well, and I don't know who it is. I think it's Pete Harrod has been involved looking at my timing screen because he's dropping down the order. Oh, here's what's happened. Oh, Brian Sowen got onto the grass on the inside. Pete Harrod was going around the outside, minding his own business, and ends up in somebody else's accident.
That is just horrendous. Oh no. That is suboptimal.
Forget that, that's huge. That is a big crash. You got high closing speed there, and Brian just gets a wheel onto the grass. So I think it's almost like he broke too late there, ended up tried to throw it down the inside to avoid Pete, and he's ended up hitting the grass and spinning into Pete instead.
Sort of a panic move of sorts.
Yeah.
It can happen. Because the tricky thing of the pit exit in Road America is kind of like, it's not like any other conventional tracks. You don't have the pit exit line that you normally have, like in Silverstone, Indianapolis, and other tracks like that. You just have track. Good luck.
Well, luck is what you need to work your way through one of these reverse grid races. And that's Andy Shield, one of our series admins in the Freeamp UK car. Currently finds himself in 21st place after gaining 21 places in this race. Some big moves being made in this race as he gets his way past Ed May, does Andy. I can tell you, Alex Gall at 22 places. The 24 places for Yannis Albert as your front two come onto pit road. So your two leaders are on pit lane along with Jesse Payne Wilkins. They're all coming on. Matthias Drozda up 25 places. Jack Sedgwick up 28 places in this race. So he's been on an absolute charge. But yeah, everybody's onto pit road now, Lorenzo. We've got a pit party.
The question is, has Alex Davison reminded that the pit limiter is about 72 kilometers and he has to be within that pit lane range? Now he remembered. Good. No penalty for him.
As they're all coming out again. So Davidson has served his pit stop and is back out in the lead. Alex Neller, though, not that far behind, has got the jump on Mark Fletcher in the pit stops. Oh, we've got speeding cars coming down the pit straight there. I think that was Matt Woodhouse trying to get between Jack Sedgwick and Yannis Albert, and he does. Mercedes finding himself in 8th place now after his pit stop. So everybody has pitted. Here's how things stand with 11 minutes and 40 seconds remaining. Alex Davidson leads ahead of Mark Fletcher. Fletcher's just got ahead of Alex Neller right now on track, so he's found himself into second. Neller, 3rd place. The top Pro-Am once again is Matthias Drozda. He's having a sensational race as Drozda in this race for the Miranda's Satellite E-Stars team. Jesse Payne Wilkins, though, your top AM driver, started on the front row of the grid and is in 6th place overall. Great race so far for him. We've seen some good drives out there here today, but Drozda, has been a man on fire in Pro-Am. One who isn't on fire though, that's Michael Blake, losing control and collecting one of the Evo SR cars.
Yeah, not the best move going to turn number 5 right there. You can see Blake kind of beached and don't know if he's come back into the track. I think there's a little bit of a battle from behind as well. Aside this one for Paul Crawford going to the inside of Mark Woodhouse. Actually, Woodhouse going to the inside and makes the move rather cleanly. Nice to see that Mark Woodhouse try to go for that the podium spot within the Pro-Am and try to solidify it because he has quite of a good gap to Simner, Archer, and Webster.
It's not the biggest of gaps, but it is certainly a good enough one as Alex Gall now finally comes onto pit road for his pit stop in that Porsche with 10 minutes remaining of this race. Should be about 10-11 seconds worth of fuel, and then we'll be back out there as another car onto pit road as well. That's Paul Webster course, caught up in an instant early on in the race. He's having to make a second pit stop here. As out they come again, but Gal, well, that was his second pit stop as well for Alex, so he got caught up in all that shenanigans on lap 1. The pace truck blocks view of Alex Gal leaving pit road. Now, 9.5 minutes remaining, Lorenzo. This is where, if you're going to try and get yourself a good result, you need to start making some moves, don't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely, especially given the fact that the grid is bunched up of sorts, going from P2 and P3 are close to one another, P4 and 5 are close of sorts, P5 and 6 are close, then 7 is kind of close. So everybody's kind of like bunched up on small draft trains of sorts. But this is the biggest one, I think, in the field, starting from Mark Woodhouse and ending at, I would say, ending at Archer right there in P12. So everybody try to follow one another. The thing is, where you make that move, because the car in the front is actually a Mercedes giving the tow to everybody else, and we know the Mercedes is kind of like an overpowered car on the straights.
It certainly got some grunt, but that BMW, Munich's finest, not doing too bad either, as Jack Sedgwick makes a move on Jesse Payne-Wilkins, so that's a gain of position for Jack. That is now 28 places gained for Jack Sedgwick in this race. Absolutely incredible for him as they come out the final corner, and Yannis Albert will want to try and get past to get into the top 5 once again here for the Brabham Esports outfit. Down towards turn number 1 they go once again. 8 minutes remaining. We're talking about 4 laps potentially.
Something like it, yeah. Because the leader's 17 seconds. Yeah, you got 4 laps roughly, yes. And you can see Yannis kind of like blinking towards Payne-Wilkins right there to try to minimize the potential time loss of Jack Sedgwick. But in Payne-Wilkins' defense, he's battling for as many points as he can get, right, Paul? So he's entitled to defend that car and try to be within the draft, whether he likes it or not, and definitely Yannis not appreciating it.
I think this is what takes a little while for some of these drivers who do come into the championship, who are brand new to the championship. I think that's what takes a few of those drivers a little while to get used to, is the fact that those drivers who are in the AM and Pro-Am, they are basically they're doing all that they can to get their points that they need for their own championship, and they're not moving out the way, whereas in some other series where you've got different classes, they would be just making their way past them because it doesn't matter. They were all their own individual championship points. Whereas here, as we mentioned in race number 1, the points that you score, the position that you finish in, those are the points that you take to your championship. So this is why Jesse Payne-Wilkins, it took Yannis Albert to Canada corner to make that move stick.
Yeah, but it kind of for Yannis, the damage is kind of been done, you know, because he already lost the tow to Jack Sedgwick, and you can already see Jack not far behind Josda, so you can definitely see the next driver catching up to Josda and challenging that P4 from the Pro-Am current leader in this race.
Look at a beautiful sunset here at Road America as Jared Crony heads onto pit road. So he's not got enough fuel for the end of this race. So that's going to be a splash and dash for Jared Crony. As Matt Woodhouse still hanging on for dear life for 8th place, but Adam Watson, we've seen how keen he is to make some places and move forward. Looking to the inside into turn number 5. Gets it done. Adam Watson then moving up a position into 8th place. Mark Woodhouse there stays close behind him. He doesn't want Paul Crawford to get past because... Oh, big moment there for Woodhouse. Oh, back end sliding out. And this is a chance for Crawford. And the thing is, Crawford has got his teammate in Richard Simner, right behind. Woodhouse wants second place in Pro-Am. Simner wants it.
Oh yeah, he wants it, and I think Crawford is the key player right here. You know, have Crawford try to go side by side as best as you can, or as slowly as you can, to try to leave your teammate to be as closer and try to make it at 1-2. So let's see what is going to happen, because I think Mark is in a deep world of pressure right now, and given the fact that he's within the train, I think that this is his only saving grace right now.
The thing is, Paul Crawford wants the best result for his championship as well. So they are teammates, but both of them are wanting to do as well as they can in their own individual championships here as they're going on, because let's not forget that Simner, well, where is he in the Pro-Am? He's not in that top 15, so he's just trying to get himself a... Oh no, sorry, he is. He was in 4th place coming into this week. Paul Crawford, he's not had the best of openings to the season, so he's trying to get himself a good result to get himself a good position for getting towards the halfway point of the championship. Of course, the halfway point is next week at Daytona. Once we've had those 3 races there next week, we'll be halfway through the season and we'll have an idea as to who is fighting for what out there. But right now, Alex Davidson has got himself a nice and healthy 8 3/4 second lead over Mark Fletcher. Alex Neller, 3rd place still in that Porsche. He's got a nice gap back to Drozda, so he's feeling comfortable right now in that 3rd place. But there's this big battle here. Matt Woodhouse, Paul Crawford, Richard Simner, and not that far back as well, Andy Archer.
Yeah, and not only that, I think for Simner, you can also realize the fact that Critchley hasn't done a good round this Road America. It wasn't his best performance. Hutchinson had a really good race one, but underperformed. I think he got cut up into the incidents early on, right in that lap number 1. And got relegated into nearly the back of the field, and Villeneuve is basically, we saw in the replay, basically a lap 1 or 2 being caught up and being sent to the wall, and basically the race is done for him. So how do you navigate?
And look, there's a move. Simner ahead of Crawford. So the 2 teammates have swapped positions. DCW Racing swapped the 2 positions. I don't think it was a team orders as such. I think it was just a case of Simner thought, well, let's give it a go and try and get the best result possible, because he feels that he's got the pace over Matt Woodhouse in front of him. This is the fight for 2nd place in Pro-Am. Now, question is, are we going to get another lap? I think we are going to get another lap again, Lorenzo, you know, because Alex Davidson, when he crossed the line, it was 37 minutes, 48 seconds for a 2 minute and 2 lap.
Yeah, we're going to definitely see another lap, and I think they are aware right now that they have that extra lap, and I think given the fact that the track is slightly cooler than before, I think they already have prepared it in advance. So this is obviously going to get an extra lap, as we see Simner being slightly aggressive on the inside of Woodhouse, already putting pressure on the Team Matt driver, and seeing that AMG is going to falter, but so far keeping it solid at P9.
Time is running out, so if you're going to make a move, make it soon as they come out of turn 7. Downhill. It's a tricky braking zone, this one. Can catch you out sometimes. You see those 3 cars together, working their way through into the carousel once again. Really, really good drive from those cars behind. Richard Simner up 11 places, Woodhouse up 3 places from where he started. Your race leader is coming out of the last corner, so we're definitely going to get 1 extra lap. So are we going to get another Tom Dadswell moment and get somebody running out of fuel on that last lap? I can tell you, by the way, that Tom Dadswell has had to pit again to make a 2nd pit stop for a splash and dash, so he wasn't making it to the end. But I do think, if I recall, that he was involved in some of that lap 1 shenanigans.
Yeah, he was, and it's a little bit unfortunate to see have a little bit of a struggle this race as well. But look at the run that Simner is going to have. Kind of covered in the middle for Woodhouse here, Paul.
Well, here we go, down towards turn number 1. Final lap for both of these drivers. Simner looking to the inside, trying to get second place in Pro-Am. Nicely done there by Richard, but he's got to be careful now because Mark Woodhouse is going to have that slipstream coming out of turn 3. He needs a good exit, does Mark. Simner's looked good all evening, it must be said, though, in that DCW Racing BMW. Down the back straight through the moraine sweep. Look at that, trying to break the slipstream, and it's working because Woodhouse is just not gaining and not catching up at all. In towards turn number 5 once again. So I think Simner may just have that signed and sealed here, Lorenzo, but there's been some good drives out there, but I do want to give a special mention to Jesse Payne-Wilkins, 7th place overall, your top AM driver, and Matthias Drozda, top Pro-Am driver in 4th place overall. Fantastic drives from both of them.
Yeah, I gotta say that as well. What a drive from them as we see Alex Davidson coming into the final corners. Dominant race number 2, basically forgetting what happened to race number 1 and extending the lead of the championship.
As he comes into the final corner, he won last week in the endurance race. He's going to be a race winner once again here in the World GT Championship. It's Alex Davidson for Pure Sims Esports across the line. He'll take the checkered flag and race to victory here. Looking back then to Matthias Drozda for Satellite Racing. Through the final corner, he's got Jack Sedgwick for company, but he should be able to hang on to 4th place, and that's going to be a Pro-Am win once again for Matthias Drozda. That's the double victory in Pro-Am for him, and Jesse Payne-Wilkins started on the front row of the grid, has kept themselves out of trouble and has managed to get themselves 8th place overall, but more importantly, an AM win for Parabellum Racing Team Simability. Great result for that outfit. Rest of your drivers working their way through, but Lorenzo, second race, I think was a bit more chaotic than the first race, but still some great drives out there.
Yeah, a bit chaotic too. That's we're putting it mildly, right, Paul? We saw those many incidents going, unfortunately, in turn number 1, but that's what happens when you have reverse grid. Is a little bit more chaotic. You try to negotiate with the kind of moves, and it gets slightly aggressive because you want to try to make moves in a club to get as fast as you can, as we see other cars wrapping up their laps. But this time, I think Alex Davidson forgot everything that happened in race number 1, put the focus down, put the hammer down on everybody else, and put everything to bed. He's the leader of the championship for a single reason. This race, it kind of explains why he's the leader of the championship.
And yeah, you've just got to put things to one side. You've got to compartmentalize that and just say, right, forget about that. That happened in race 1. Let's move on to race number 2 and do this best job that we can. As the final couple of drivers do head on over, it's worth pointing out James Armstrong, he did get back out there on track and got himself to a 32nd place, so not a good second race for our race 1 winner from Brabham Esports. Across the line, flashing the headlights, Mike Horder must know that we were watching him there, but we'll be able to give you your final race results here in race number 2 of round 5 of the World GT Championship Season 12. And it is Pure Sims Esports once again, race winners, and it's Alex Davidson 2 weeks in a row who finds himself on the top step of the podium. Altitude Esports Mark Fletcher doing a great job there to finish in 2nd place, but 9.3 seconds back. He'll have been hoping to have caught up a little bit to Alex. Alex Nella, Boosted Motorsport, started near the front and kept himself in the business. He finishes in 3rd place for Boosted Motorsports, getting himself a podium finish in that Porsche. Matthias Drozda, 4th place for Satellite Racing, Pro-Am winner once again. That's 2 from 2 tonight for Matthias, and he only just beats out Jack Sedgwick, Yanis Olbert, Adam Watson, with Jesse Payne-Wilkins, Parabellum Racing Team Simability, your AM race winner in this one, with Richard Simner and Matt Woodhouse rounding out your top 10. Paul Crawford, Andy Archer, Jensen Adriansons, Andy Shield, Ed May, Lars Van Rijn, Adam Hedgecock, Alex Gall, Paul Webster and Jared Caroni round out your top 20. And Ben Gregory, Tom Brown, Tom Dadswell, not a good race for him in the second race. Mark Hutchinson, Phil Samways, Jack Osborne, Patrick Faulkner, Andy Gilmore, Tim Perry and Martin de Jong down to 30th. Andy Gilmore 28th after starting at the front of the field. Mike Corder is the last driver on the lead lap with James Armstrong. There you see 32nd place overall, 1 lap down, does score himself points there. Chris Van Der Nest, Sarah Raab, Brian Sun, Michael Blake, Jeroen Kaiser, Pete Harrod, Jack Belton and Adam Coles. With a couple more, Ethan Critchley and Kevin Kittleman all retiring from the race. But Lorenzo, that was, as I say, a bit of a more chaotic race, but we do want to speak to one driver who had a good first race, and Lorenzo, you can stand by talking to the AM winner from race number 1, Sarah Raab.
So, Sarah, congratulations on that win. Your maiden victory here in the World GT Championship, and could have come on a better track like Road America. You were matching pace with everybody else. Talk us through it.
Yeah, honestly, very surprised. I only did 2-ish hours of practice last night, but did Road America for another league and the Audi, so I think that just kind of caught up with me. But we got a really good setup with us today, and we're able to just somehow manage to find that pace. You know, this might be my one, my one race, but, I'll take it.
All right, and that's good to hear because, of course, race number 2 wasn't the best race you probably ever had, of course, and you got involved in 2 early incidents. But with that being aside, moving on into Daytona Road, which is a track that I think is similar to Road America because of the draft. Are you confident that you have a setup going for next week's race, and how do you see Daytona playing out?
So, got a funny story. I will be missing next week, flying out to New York, but going to still do practice with the guys. In that we raced the Merc, I think 2-ish weeks ago in another league at Daytona, so we got some good data on that. Just getting Jack and Brian set up for next week, and I think that's just our main goal. I think everyone's going to be quick there. Everyone has probably logged a good amount of laps, with the Daytona 24 and VRS or IMSA. They're pretty much always at Daytona, so it's going to be a very close race between every level.
Sure, absolutely. And before we let you go, and going to this championship topic, you've been in the AM class, you've been one of these new drivers coming into the championship. How have you found the championship so far, not just across your class, but across all classes as well in terms of racecraft and everything? Yeah,
it's, still adjusting to it. I think one of another racing friends summed it up well. Being one of the few Americans, he was like, the Europeans are very, very fast, very quick. It's just finding a matter of, pit strategy. That's our biggest thing we got to find. And, working, a bit more extra, everyone on this grid is very, very fast. Wanted to challenge myself. So it's a fun series, to get me up to pace and get to experience, close and very, very clean racing. I think Ed May, he's had very good races with me. We've been near each other. Alex Neller, we've been, very, very close battles. And I think Paul Webster and I last, the first race today had a very, fun, clean battle. So, it's, a mutual respect between everyone, but very, very quick.
Nice to know that, Sarah. With that being said, we're going to let you go, but enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll see you next week in Daytona.
Yeah, awesome. Thank y'all.
There we go. That was Sarah Raab, and just quickly joining us as well for a chat is Ed May from Three Spires Motorsport. Well, Ed, I mean, it's been a while since we've seen you up near the front, but 15th place there in second race, 3rd place in AM. You must be happy with that result tonight.
Yeah, mate. Happy with both races, to be fair. Podiums in first and second. So that was a night to really get my championship back on track after bit of a horror show in the past few rounds since Catalonia. It's been good to get back up to the podium.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, drop scores do come into play in the series, which can either make or break championships. But we're heading towards that halfway point of the season. You know, how are you? Other than the challenging times that you've had at some of the previous rounds, how have you been finding it in general, though?
Tough, very tough. I mean, both of these races, I've been involved in incidents. First race, it was the skirmish in turn 5, and then last race was in the skirmish in turn 1. So I had to. I'm not sure if I like these last two third challenges that I've been getting myself into, but it's been really fun. Honestly, there's been some great racing aside from some of the early lap stuff. If you can get through that, the battling is really great, really respectful. It's my first proper time in this league, and I've been really impressed by the standard. It's been amazing.
And then just looking forward, though, Daytona Road next time out, we know that that's all about power, it's all about slipstream. How are you feeling in that BMW? Because those Mercedes, they do seem to have just that little edge in top speed, don't they?
Yeah, it's annoying. I really wish I was in the Mercedes because I'm normally really good around Daytona. That is one of my preferred tracks, so we'll cross our fingers that it goes well for me. I know the BMW being the big bulky beast G is a lot of drag, basically just a brick with an engine in it, but we'll see how far I can lob that brick around Daytona.
Well, Ed, thanks a lot for joining us, and have a good evening.
No worries, take care, thank you.
There we go, that's a couple of our drivers to have a chat to. First time chatting to Sarah on the broadcast here. Lorenzo, next week then, we've kept on mentioning it, Daytona Road. I mean, what are you expecting from 3 sprint races?
3 crazy sprint races. The draft is going to be insane from start to finish. Expect at least one of the races to finish with a photo finish, to say the very least. We know that Daytona already delivers this kind of racing, but it's going to be exciting. I can't wait to see that next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Do not miss that one. It's the same place, same time next week, September the 5th. Here on RaceSpotTV for the World GT Championship, brought to you by 3M. Lorenzo, thank you very much for joining us on commentary for this week, stepping into Peter Mackay's boots. I have been Paul Smith. Behind the scenes has been Hugo Luis, bringing you all of the pictures. It's been a day of firsts for a number of drivers. A first AM win for Sarah Raab, a first win overall for James Armstrong. But one driver who hasn't had a first is that man, Alex Davidson, with a win in race number 2. From everybody here at RaceSpotTV, it's goodbye.